Hi, I'm Lisa Entwistle, founder of Wealthy Living and host of Wealthy Living radio show. Through conversations with my guests, my intention is to help you, the listener, to live a life where you have the knowledge, confidence, and clarity to make choices that support your well-being both personally and professionally. So today we're going to talk about communicating from a place of inner power, presence, and passion. So to speak with me about this topic today, I have transformational body therapist, presentation coach, and keynote speaker, Dr. Gary Wolhman. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you, Lisa.
So Gary has countless qualifications. I can't go into them all today, but it will all be on the show notes that you can find out what his qualifications are later if you desire. But he has many qualifications, and by integrating his studies with his life experiences and his personal development work, he is a sought-after leader in the field of authentic communication. Gary helps people transfer and transform their message using their body and their voice. So, Gary, I want to talk to you a little bit about this, or a lot about the idea of communicating from this place of inner power. And inner power, I believe, is our birthright.
Absolutely.
Yet, for so many people, they seem to have lost the skills to communicate from this place.
Yes.
And instead hand over their power to others. So why do you think this is the case?
Great question, Lisa. In my own experience, having been on both sides of audience and presenter myself, and have had many experiences of both being in power and also giving away power, it almost always comes down to one thing. Mm-hmm. That one thing being the story we tell ourselves when we're standing in front of an audience. I'll give you an example. One day, 20, 30 years ago, I was asked to do a presentation at the Peabody Conservatory of Music in the East Coast of the United States. This was in Virginia Beach. I was living there at the time. And this particular situation was where singers who were about to perform in front of audiences were having an opportunity with me to shift the way that they could bring out their full presence, passion in this mock rehearsal zone. So we had the accompanists of the people who are the musical performers. We had an audience of their friends. It filled the auditorium. And the singers themselves. A typical thing that happened, I remember, was a singer would stand up there and they would look over to the drummer and they'd go, God, you just don't meet the same beat and rhythm as me. You just always out of tune. And thinking that before they even opened their mouth. And to the audience, gee, you're critical of me. I probably don't look good enough on stage. Maybe my voice isn't professional enough. All of this self-criticism that we carry. This is what's disempowering for every one of us. In that particular moment, I asked the person with the drummer, what would you like to see in your relationship with the drummer? Oh, everything that you do is in tune and in rhythm with what I say. Good. Say that to the drummer. Good. Suddenly the energy shifted. Now to the audience. Tell the audience. From now on I, and the person to repeat after me, from now on I, in front of all my audiences, starting with you, I'm ready to see you as fascinated with what I have to say, holding on to every word and compelled in my singing and my describing of the songs between my actual singing itself, that you will take action to live the most inspired life you can. That's my new relationship with you. And then the audience would actually be told by me to speak back. Yes, we love what you have to say, and we can respond to you in this caring, creative way.
Wow. So did they receive that, like when you sort of shared that with them, were they aware Like, what sort of awareness did they have that they were giving away their power?
Only when I gave them the exercise did they realize from this example that they could be on the other side of it in just minutes by physically practicing a verbal sentence that was coming from a place of sincerity. My new relationship with you is. So by practicing this simple tool, anyone can do this. Up to now I, blah, 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 blah. From now on I. And by stepping into that zone, as it were, particularly moving across the stage in a particular direction from past to future, whatever that feels like to the person, then they're able to remember this shifting that takes place, and it follows them wherever they go. Say more about that to me.
So what I hear that you're saying is that people are losing their ability to communicate from a place of inner power because they're telling themselves stories that aren't necessarily true.
Exactly. It's all about the self-talk. Once we can transform the messages we give to ourselves first, that automatically dominoes out, crescendos out, like a pebble in the lake to the edges of the audiences they wish to reach. So the feeling of empowerment comes with a combination of not just the words, but putting oneself into the state. The verbal words, the vocal sounds, and the visual delivery in concert together.
So I'm assuming that you have a hell of a lot of tools that you'll be able to share with us throughout our conversation to how to do that. But before we get on to that, I imagine people have to be self-aware enough to realise that they are even coming from a place of externalising their power to somebody else or a circumstance, whether it be in their personal lives and the way that they relate with either their loved ones or their family members or their friends, or whether it be in an office situation or with co-workers or in whatever circumstance it is, professionally or personally. You have to first be aware that you're actually even doing that.
Very interesting comment. As you're speaking, I'm replaying a scene that happened about 10 years ago when I was doing a presentation at a conference in Sydney, helping people deliver their message with greater rapport and presence and engagement. And a woman came up to me afterwards and said, "God, you're so fluid up on stage. I would love to be that way myself. I don't feel that I have that ability. I'm terrified when I'm standing up on stage." So she came for a private session, a one-on-one session. And when it came down to it, when we got to remove the mask that was underneath what was really going on with her, she admitted. She said, "Well, part of why I feel like I don't want people to see me on stage is that when I was a little girl and I was really baby, my father and my brother took off my clothing and put me up on a billiard table and shot billiard balls at me, humiliating me."
Oh my gosh.
I know, I'm having tears speaking about it. And she did too. Out came the pain that was pushed down decades ago. And I said to her, "Look, I can give you all kinds of empowering tools and techniques and tips to be a better presenter, yet that would be putting a Band-Aid on an open wound.
Yeah.
For me to be of real deep service to you, to bring out your true power, presence, and passion, what I'm prepared to do with you, with your willingness, is to go back to that moment. Look at you, you're just dripping with tears. This pain has been in your body all these decades. Let's go under the surface and rewire the self-talk so when you present from now on, you're coming from a place of, I love to be heard." And in this particular situation, she was not self-aware. And she was so upset that she wouldn't dive deeper into the pain. And she said, "I just wanted presentation coaching. I didn't want you to do therapy on me." I said, "Look, this is the best I can do to bring out the best of you. We need to go to the place where you've been hurting, where you've been wounded, where you've been contracted, and being willing to embrace it, breathe into it, and then come out with, from now on, I am willing to be seen. I love being seen." You're not there yet, but that's the journey I'm prepared to take you on. Now, on the other hand, another example that answers your question on the enlightened, aware end is about 3-4 years ago. I was in Maui, Hawaii, in the Hawaiian Islands, where I used to live. I was presenting at a tribal dance community marathon event, my Speaking from the Heart workshop. And these people are all switched on to working with their body and sometimes with their voice. And one of the presenters there, who was a 5 Rhythms movement meditation teacher from New York, when I asked him before the actual presentation, what is it that's in the way for you to really connect with your audience with a feeling of empowerment? And he said, sometimes I just forget what I have to say. I feel like I have a sense of hesitation. There's something in me that feels like I'm not willing to really come forth and share the depth of my wisdom, warmth, and wittiness with my audiences. So when he came up to have his turn, it turned out, with his self-awareness and his willingness to go there, he said, I forgot to tell you when we were on the break that when I was living in New York, I was bullied all the time and people were always beating me up. So when I'm standing in front of people, and now there's people from all over the country, all over the world watching him in this presentation, when I'm standing in front of people, I'm replaying that moment where I felt humiliated, that I don't want to be seen. I'm going to be hurt. I'm going to be beat up. And he was crying. But now something different happened because there was a lot of people in the audience, including him, who were very self-aware. One person after another came up as audience members to empower him and said, your vulnerability is your strength. How beautiful that you can share the depths of your humanity, your pain, the depth of compassion, to care deeply for people. And I love to be able to work with you, to be able to be in your classes, because you're someone that I can trust to go from the depths to the heights. It turned his life around. So that's an example of someone who is awake, alert, and aware, and powerful life-transforming experience.
Thank you for sharing those examples. They've given me shivers, both of them. They're incredible stories, and like you said, they're coming from 2 different places. And what I love so much about these examples is it, I suppose, further validates my belief that all success in whatever we do and whatever success means to each person only comes when we have our core personal foundations in place. And so, like in that first example that you gave, that woman, like you can be the best presentation coach in the world, but if she doesn't address her core foundations first, she may be able to make some slight changes to her voice or the way she moves on stage or the way she projects her voice on the outer level, but the sustainability of that success as a good presenter will be very difficult without the core foundations worked on first.
It's so true, Lisa. When I do my other work, the transformational body therapy that I've been developing over the last 45 years, one of the things I love to do when I'm working at the base of the spine, the foundation of what we stand on, is to create more fluidity and flexibility and flow of the musculature in that area, with the specific affirmation as I'm stretching that area on the exhalations of, and I have the person say this, and again at the end of the session, I trust standing on a firm, flexible foundation that supports me. And then at the end of the session, while the muscles have been stretched, suddenly they're standing up taller, and I ask them, if you were a tree right now, rather than seeing yourself as a human, if you were a human tree, feel how much more your feet feel planted on the ground, like roots of the tree. How your legs, like trunks of the tree, feel solid but not stiff. There's energy flowing through. And now that foundation that's there at the base of the spine is a place that you can truly allow to support. Open your arms now at the same height as your chest and heart, making a nice open circle. And feel that beautiful spaciousness. Your arms are like the branches of the tree. This is what gives you that ability to connect deeply with audiences, to give and receive that emotional support, rapport, and connection. And it cannot happen with a wavering foundation. Once the foundation is strong, flexible, and flowing, then the heart can open and a person can share even more deeply and intimately on all stages of their life.
Yeah, I love the way that you integrate the physical body with the ability of speaking with your voice. And I love that integration, and it's so unique because there's so many body workers and there's so many, I suppose, voice coaches or presentation outer coaches, and the way that you integrate that is so unique, and it really does allow for beautiful transformation. So if we do talk a little bit about this physical level of the body,
yes.
When someone is making choices that aren't in alignment or don't have a strong core foundation, so are giving away their power, as we spoke before, what do you think is happening on a physical level within the body? So I suppose people can maybe sometimes, some of the audience might relate more, to that physical level. So maybe you can describe to the audience what you feel about is going on with the physical body.
Absolutely. Having seen this pattern hundreds and hundreds of times over this life, what I notice, particularly in relationship to the upper torso, the chest, the lungs, the heart, is an area that if a person is giving their power away or disempowering themselves to gain approval from others in a relationship, whether that's a personal relationship, a professional relationship, or that gives them a feeling that they're pleasing others rather than pleasing self, often the actual structure of that upper torso is bent forward, caved in, and if you looked at it, it looks like a bird whose wings were clipped. The feeling of an undeservability, an unworthiness that's revealed there. So we do the opposite. We combine stretching those muscles across the chest and the heart and the muscles behind the wings so that whole band expands, not just one place, but that whole circularity like a latitude around the earth. And then giving the person these affirmations to say at the same time. I fully receive what I most strongly desire, deserve and decree. They breathe in, I stretch the muscles. More room for me to be as I always wanted to be. So we're literally creating more room. We're spreading the wings. So instead of feeling caved in and unworthy and unable to give themselves that feeling of empowerment and nurturing, they suddenly shift from I can't to I am. We work a little bit more on those muscles in the upper torso, in the front of the chest, right in front of the shoulder. While I'm stretching those muscles, I ask the person to say, I'm ready to have it all on the exhalation while I'm stretching. And then they say on the next stretch, what matters the most to me? And I say to them, say after me, I allow, full breath, good. I receive, breathing in the most beautiful colors of sunrise filling the heart. And I claim my greatest fulfillment now. So when people say that, we're encoding the new program in the muscle memory instantaneously. We're combining breath, sound, visualization, stretching, and rhyme, those 5 sensory modalities at the same time. Therefore, whatever is spoken is immediately embedded into a person's structure, and they come from that place rather than the disempowered place. Make sense?
Yeah, it sounds brilliant. So I suppose that's another level of, self-awareness, as we talked about before, is on a level of how we speak to someone and people-pleasing and all of those ways we give away our power. Sometimes it's hard for people without prompts to recognise and be self-aware that they're actually doing it. But when it comes to our physical body, and this is for the people that are listening that sometimes find the other quite hard to be self-aware or gain the self-knowledge on, and sort of don't recognise when you're giving away your power with words. But on a physical body level, the body doesn't lie. So the wisdom that's coming from the body, if you're not sure, all you need to do is really look at your body, and is it in a, like you said, this contracted state, or is it in this expanded state? And depending on what your body's doing will give you a really good clue into how you're feeling.
It's true. That's the tip of the iceberg, what you're saying. For example, looking at our shoulders that could look like the tip of the iceberg on our body.
Yep.
This is very interesting because if we look at the shoulders, we know the expression shouldering responsibility, carrying a burden on their shoulders, weight of the world on the shoulders. Yep. When a person feels that heaviness, that feeling of tightness, the shoulders up like a Y shape towards the ears, protecting the ability to speak because there's been such rejection and criticism in their life, often what happens is that person, just like you and me, because we've all done this in our own way, we've taken on, seeking approval, the programs, patterns, and pain of well-meaning, intentioned people, mother, father, lover, authority figure, people we wanted to please because we wanted to fit in when we were younger, and then we've been keeping the shoulders fixed ever since. So here's a simple tool. You can do this on your own, you who are listening. Take your left hand as you're sitting up tall and placing the palm of your left hand over your right temple, the face facing forward. Take a deep breath in. Yep, good. Putting down your glasses if you're wearing glasses. Deep breath in. And as you exhale, pulling the left ear to the left shoulder as you face forward with your face, and say these words as you do. My shoulder drops away.
My shoulder drops away.
Breathe in, relax. Exhale, go further, stretching the left ear to the left shoulder, the right shoulder towards the right hip, a counter stretch. More room for me to trust.
More room for me to trust.
Inhale, relax. And on the third exhalation, stretching further, doing this sequentially. What I feel, think, do, and say.
What I feel, think, do, and say.
Hip, hip, hooray!
Hip, hip, hooray!
So I add that little Monty Python moment to add something ridiculous that's it's suddenly instantly memorable. And there's a feeling of, gee, I can move my shoulder now. It was frozen all these years. However, just like you said, Lisa, we can't do this all on our own. One of the things I love to do in this case, if a person has taken on this exceedingly sweet-sounding, polite, saccharinely sweet personality, persona, often then what's happened is person's holding on to these belief systems of the ancestors. So I'll take my elbow or forearm, often while they're either sitting up tall in the position you were just doing that exercise in, or laying on your side, which is even better access for me to stretch the muscle from the ear. And I'll have the person say this. I release having to hold.
I release having to hold.
The programs, patterns, and pain.
The programs, patterns, and pain.
Of people I didn't want to suffer, struggle, or hurt.
Of people I didn't want to suffer, struggle, or hurt.
And I took it on for them.
And I took it on for them.
And then on the next exhalation, just like the last exercise you did, because we're always stretching on the exhalations, saying these words. I send people's programs.
I send people's programs.
Deep breath in, and the next exhale we stretch further. Patterns and pain.
Patterns and pain.
Back to the source.
Back to the source.
Back to where they came.
Back to where they came.
And then I put my fingers like a claw underneath the wings and open the wings, and person says, more room for me.
More room for me.
Renewed again.
Renewed again.
So this gets a huge feeling of spaciousness, where it was all compressed like a yoke around an ox before, and unlocks tremendous sense of self-worth, the ability to receive and give oneself the attention, the approval, and the acknowledgement they were seeking from others. It transforms everything at the same time.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, obviously, you're very skilled in this area. It's something you've developed over many, many, many years. And yes, there are a lot of body workers out there, but yours is a very unique way. And obviously, you can't be there for everybody. So for those people that are listening that may not necessarily come and have a session with you, but resonate with some of these things and the affirmations that you've been sharing, to do those affirmations on their own and visualize them instead of having somebody actually work on them, is that useful? It's
useful, and it's good to have both. It's good to have an expert like me, even a yoga coach or someone that's able to do the stretching, and then I'm happy to talk to people on Skype and help them guide them through this as well. But it's good to have some mentor and guide to refine the expression. For example, one powerful exercise that you who are listening can practice on your own, which will take you to the same place I just suggested in an expressive mode. This is done more in my performance and presentation coaching than in the transformational body therapy, yet I often combine the two. You can do this on your own. So, standing up, as long as you're not driving in a car, thank you, good. Standing up where you are in your room right now, if you can, with a little bit of room around you. Okay. Now, picture an event that happened when you were young. Perhaps when your mother or your father, or teacher, or someone that you really wanted to give you the attention, the approval, the acknowledgement that they couldn't, they didn't, and they wouldn't, and it hurt you. And it so much hurt you that you've been suppressing yourself ever since, developing this false persona, like a mask, of holding your shoulders tight, acting cowardly, and being afraid to take a stand for what matters the most to you. But you're not conscious about it until I suggest we do this exercise. So, stand up and first flick your fingers of your hands so the wrists are flicking, and move your body so that your arms are moving down towards the ground. It's letting out some sounds like wah, wah, as though you're letting go of the angst you've been carrying. And slowly breathing in. That's it. Coming up one vertebrae at a time. Slowly, slowly breathing in through the chest and heart. Take your right hand and extend it in front of you as though you're directing your attention out towards that scene where you were told to shut up, or something that you can remember, even the pattern of you never listened to me, whatever it was. And then address that person or situation. An example would be a person reaching out to, let's say their mom told them to be quiet, that they are best to keep to themselves. So a person says, Mom, when I was really young, and you were always telling me to keep to myself whenever I shared something that meant a lot to me, that really hurt me. And ever since, often emotion will come up at this moment, ever since I've been holding back from feeling worthy in all my relationships because I wanted to please you. As a little girl, a little boy, I didn't know any different. So I developed this persona to survive with your constant criticism of me, and I internalize it to criticize myself. This never belonged to me. I take this pain. Put your right hand palm up, and with your left hand as though you're mixing paint together, and say these words while you're doing that. I take this pain and I wad it up to an ugly ball, and then take your left hand and reaching back as you're standing, point towards a corner of the room on the ceiling and say these words, just like I said when we were stretching the body. I send this pain back to the source. I send this program, pattern, and pain back to where it came. Then, slowly, turning clockwise as though you were an analog clock looking down from the ceiling, as though you're moving through space and time, sink into your feet with your heels of your hands also in the air, breathing fully. That's it, and say these words. I've just sent this past pattern somewhere else to play. Today for me is a new day. I trust what I have to say. Then I often have them walk into the room if I'm doing this exercise with someone, and we continue the same exercise on the body it has liberated them from their past. It's a very empowering thing. You can practice this on your own in that way.
Yeah, that was great. And, I'm obviously in the same space as Gary, and I can see his whole, almost performance animated version of that exercise. But hopefully, just from listening to it, that you've understood in the same way, because I think that he described that really, really quite clearly. But if you have any uncertainty around that exercise, and it is something that you feel called that you want to do, please do get in touch. And either I can video Gary doing it, or I can put you in touch with him, and he can maybe go through that a little bit more with you, so that you can do that for yourself.
I feel honored to do so, Lisa. Thank you.
Great. So these body exercises that you've just gone over, both the ones where you do the body therapy as well as some of the affirmations that they can do on their own with working with the body and the affirmation as you described, are fantastic, and they definitely give great benefit to be able to release some of those stored stories that you talk about that stop us from being able to communicate from a place of inner power.
So true.
So how does all of this and using that body work, how does it then relate to your other part of everything you do? And I know you integrate both, but when you are just teaching for public speaking, because there will be some people who are listening and maybe some of the body work seems a little bit out there, or they're just not quite ready to go into that vulnerable state of affirmations necessarily, because for some people that's quite a big leap.
Sure.
But they are leaders in their field,
yes,
or they would like to speak more publicly, or even they'd like to share more of their message on social media. So how does this all relate to being able to do that?
Okay. There's a very simple exercise anyone can practice before they say a single word to the camera on their website, Facebook, social media, or in front of a live audience. That is the most powerful exercise that I've developed, that I can consider the simplest exercise that anyone can practice. And it's simply this. Go to yourself in front of a mirror. See the person looking back. If you can do this now, get a mirror or walk to a room where you can hear my voice and Lisa's voice and face yourself in front of a mirror. Hopefully the person looking back at you in the mirror looks a lot like you. If not, we have something else to talk about. So this is your best audience and your worst critic. It's you. Facing yourself in the mirror, say these 3 keywords out loud. What 3 keywords, you ask? Well, look. Before you say a thing, you want to get into the zone. To get into the zone so that what comes through, you're trusting what you deeply know, so your thoughts, your words, and your emotions can fully, freely flow. One of the things to do in saying, looking yourself in the mirror, is to name one quality at a time that really picks up your key attributes that people love about you before you even compose a content-driven presentation. So for me, for example, I might say, as I often do, I'm creative. And with that, I will do something with my gestures. At that moment, I just lifted my hands up and moved them from the inside out, as though I'm making a spinning action. It just came naturally. I didn't think about it. So whatever gesture matches one key word for you, notice that in the mirror. The next one, I would say something slightly different. I would say about myself, I'm playful, and I'll do some movements with my hands and arms that look like a boat moving downstream in a way that's melodic and fun to watch. And then the third one is I'll take my right hand with the palm up and my left hand with the heel of the hand down. And as I exhale, I plant the left hand like a blade or sword into my palm facing up. And I'll say, and I'm transformational. I am. So those 3 qualities that come with 3 specific different gestures are powerful, because if you can say it, whisper it, shout it, do it in mime with no sound, sing it. I'm creative, I'm playful, I'm transformational, or whatever for you matches. This would help you get into the zone. Then before you're presenting, you can even do just the gestures, and it will help you remember to be in that state of exquisite connection between you, your body, your message, and your audience. And then what you say literally makes more sense because you're activating your senses. The gestures that visually create a picture of what you're saying. That's a simple tool. You don't have to be needing to go into any airy-fairy or hocus-pocus or new age stuff to make this simple practice of my visual gestures match my verbal content and my vocal sounds, the 3 V's of communication. A simple, powerful exercise to get into the zone.
Love it. And I love how animated you are when you describe everything. It's like I'm watching, for those that don't, are just listening. I'm actually listening and watching a whole performance. So yeah, this is fantastic. I love how informative you are and how engaging you are and how entertaining you are. And I think that that's probably the 3 elements that are so important with public speaking. So you really embody all of these teachings, and it's incredible. So I read in your bio, when I was reading through your full bio, that you felt you really needed to create the tools and resources to coach individuals to connect their inner purpose, to their outer presentation,
right,
and which we've kind of gone over quite a bit, and to align their intent with their performance.
Yes.
So I love this, and we've gone over it a little bit, but I just want you to elaborate on that a little bit more.
Sure. As you're speaking, I often get pictures when people are speaking of scenes from upcoming attractions, whether it's a body therapy session, a presentation coaching session, or what to do next in working with someone. So the picture I just got when you said that was an image of a person standing on stage. That's you, the listener. So there you are. And to begin to have what is inside match what's outside, here's a simple tool you can practice. Imagine yourself standing in the center of a 3x3 knots and crosses tic-tac-toe grid. You're standing in the center of 9 squares where there's a square in front of you, in back of you, on either side of you, and diagonally on either side of you. So that's 9 squares, you being in the center. The center represents the present, the now. I stand for this. Now, if I wanted to confide in the audience and create a feeling of deep emphasis in saying something like this, if you remember one thing from our presentation here today, remember this: speaking from the heart, speaking from the inside out, is really about simply having a relationship, a communication, a conversation between you, your message, and your body and your audience. When this conversation is intact, then the words flow so easily. So when I said that, did you notice? What did I do with my voice? Yes, exactly. I dropped my voice and my spine forward as I stepped into that frontal square of the tic-tac-toe or knots and crosses grid. So that zone becomes a zone for confiding. It has a place. If you're telling a story that means a lot to you, you may feel energetically that when I tell this story, as you face the audience's relationship to you as a speaker, the audience facing you as a speaker is seeing you speak about past, present, and future. Sooner or later you will in your presentation. We all do make references to time. From the audience's point of view, facing you in the English language, we're all trained when we write to write from left to right. So our relationship to time in our psyche, we don't think about this consciously, as an audience, is the left is the past, the right is the future. So if you face your audience and you start delivering a story as you face to your right, to the audience's left, and say, the way things used to be, I was terrified about speaking my truth with wisdom and clarity and ease. right now, I find that taking a stand, as you're back in the central square, that what matters to me in being vulnerable and sharing my authenticity, my tenderness, and my humanity is to express from a place of deeply felt sounds that become words, that become phrases, that become sentences. And as I step over here to the future, my sense is I won't have to even think about my content or material, that I'm mostly just connected with the relationship I have with you. I am so pleased you, as an audience, are listening as deeply as you are. So that sense of communicating to the audience as though you're developing a relationship is a way of creating a connection and a feeling of speaking from the inner intention, matching the outer expression. These are simple tools anyone can practice.
Well, that's a lot to take in. That's, yeah, amazing. And I just want to elaborate, like, so people, these days, a lot of people are presenting online.
Yes.
So there's a lot of not staged presence.
That's true.
And there's a lot of delivering through video.
That's right.
Especially for small businesses. And I know a lot of my listeners are small businesses.
Yes.
So for those people that may not necessarily be speaking at a live event.
Yes.
And they're speaking through video, through their computer,
yeah.
and almost feel like they're speaking to no one but could be speaking to lots of people,
yes.
even with lives or just recording. I know I have trouble with this. Mm-hmm. Get me on a live stage and I feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Get me in a conversation, I feel comfortable. Get me speaking to my phone or to my computer and I get stuck.
As all of us do. Here's some simple tools, you who are listening, that is practicing in front of your camera in the computer or on FaceTime would be able to put immediately into practice. 1, if you have a friend, someone that you love warming up to, someone that really loves listening to you, you know what I'm about to say, don't you? Yes, have them stand directly in back of the camera. So you're actually looking at them as well as at the camera.
And if you're by yourself?
And if you're by yourself, do what I'm doing. I'm talking to you as though you're right here with me, and I'm actually responding to you, saying things like, oh, yeah, that's good. Yeah. Moving a little bit forward, breathing. Yes, dropping your voice down as though I'm actually watching you. So a simple tool would be, let's say I'm looking at you in the camera, and I know you're not there looking back, but I know you are looking back. You might say something like this. For those of you that are watching this right now, if you remember one thing from this conversation, remember this. And so suddenly, you're not speaking from a content-driven, missing the human. You're speaking directly to them because they are listening.
Yeah.
And you say, and if you didn't get that, let me say it in a different way. Take a deep breath in with me. That's good. It's as though you're watching them. Excellent. And a bit longer on the exhale, you in the back. Yeah.
It's so true and it's so good, and it certainly is a really good tool, and it does require a lot of practice. That practice, I suppose, like everything, of almost being good at make believe.
Well, it's true. The best actors and actresses who get paid millions of dollars to share the emotions, the tenderness, the vulnerability and strength that many other humans are terrified to do, have it to practice. If you can do perfect practice, it's much more powerful than trying to get it right. Yeah. Trying to get it right makes everybody nervous.
Totally.
You who are speaking, you who are listening. But if you go, look, I'm perfectly imperfect. I'm humanly divine. And in being able to present even things that don't go quite according to plan, as though I care about you, the audience member, this is what thrills us. We want to know that you care about us. We even want to know, don't you, who are listening, hey,
that's a good one.
He who is speaking to me right now, he cares about me as a human, as an individual. He's not just dropping down his content, downloading all this information as though he's Moses coming down with the sacred tablets from the top of the hill. If I feel as an audience member that you who are speaking to me in the camera are caring about me, that I'm valued as a listener, my listening is going to be louder, and your presenting is going to be contagious and connected. Make sense?
Yeah. Oh, this has been so good. And, I've learnt so much just listening to you, and I'm sure everybody here who's listened has also learnt so much. You've shared so many tools and so many fantastic stories that have brought goosebumps to my skin and, and a lot of really practical tools that people can use even by themselves, ones to free up stored energy, ones to get into the zone, ones to clear old wounds that are blocking us from speaking up. You've just shared so much today, and thank you so much. So, for those that are here today listening, communicating from that place of inner power is just so important. And I hope that you've had, that you can now understand that when we do this, we get this greater understanding between two people, between an audience and yourself, or even if it's just one-to-one, which then enables you to relate better to people. And then when there are things that come up like disagreements, it doesn't turn into this awful conflict, but it turns into something where two people can communicate in a way where they just are able to ask curiously based on how they feel and what's important and their beliefs to gain a greater understanding and an empathy from other people. It enables, therefore, less resentment and more self-alignment, and then more integrity, and most of all, then more self-acceptance, which then leads you to a wealthier life. So
true. I have one point I'd like to add that seems to keep coming up as you've been speaking, as I often do. I see the same scenario that I'm here to share, because it's 2 or 3 times that I've seen this in the last minute. If you remember one thing from this presentation, along with all the things you've heard from both Lisa and your wonderful wisdom and warmth and with yourself and myself, we all are authorities in our own right.
Yeah.
And if we look at it that way, seeing, for example, yourself as an archaeologist of the soul, as I see myself, look at it this way. We are often buried within our own landscapes in these bodies. And if you can see yourself letting go of first the superficial physical layers of tension, and then one layer down, the stored emotional energy that has kept the holding patterns in place, then, just like an archaeological dig, by getting under the surface of where you live in the landscape of your body, the temple of communication, then the creative gifts which are buried, the ability to speak, sing, write, open up a creative gift that you didn't even realize you had, but may have been with your ancestors. Then you're able to unearth the greatest capacity you have to connect with yourself, with life, with others and creation as we were meant to be. So be it. I leave that to you.
Yeah, and that's a perfect thing, because for anyone who's listened to my shows before or has worked with me, they know that my mantra is connection is medicine, which is connection to self, others, and the world around us, or to nature. So that was just a perfect summation that is so aligned with everything I do. So perfect resonance there.
Beautiful, Lisa. I do my best thinking out loud. So
yeah, me too. So thank you everyone for listening. I'm Lisa Entwistle. I'm an integrated life, clarity and wellbeing coach, a workplace wellbeing consultant, event facilitator and host. To find out more about my services or upcoming events, you can visit my website at Wealthy Living, so that's WELLTHY living.com.au, or you can connect with me on all social media channels. If you have enjoyed this episode, I'd love you to subscribe, rate, and give a review on iTunes so it can reach more people. To find out a little bit more about you, Gary, how can they reach you?
You can reach me by liking my Facebook page, My Presentation Doctor, spelled out, and you'll receive all kinds of videos, audios, and inspiring materials to enhance your impact, effectiveness, and engagement with your live presentations. You can also go to my website where I have all kinds of videos and blogs, actual moments of people making presentation breakthroughs, mypresentationdoctor.com. And that would be another way you can have lots of tips, tools, and techniques you can immediately put into practice. I'm also happy to offer complimentary 20-minute Skype sessions if you're anywhere around the world and you're not here in Melbourne and would like to have this support live. I'm happy to offer that to you to take what we've set in motion here even further. And Gary Wolhman, GaryWohl, Whiskey, Oscar, Happy, Love.
I'll put it all in the show notes.
MAN. And I'm happy to be there for you.
Thank you.
This is where it all, instead of this being the ending of the show, I always like to say, this is where it all begins. Yeah. Lovely to meet you.
Thank you so much. And I'll put all of that on the show notes as well anyway. So, and thank you for that very generous offer of that free 20-minute consult.
Absolutely.
That's super generous of you. So thanks again for your time today. And for everyone else, until next time, remember that your inner power is your birthright.
Beautiful.